we could build another project, and we could reference that project. We're referencing projects from Autodesk, aren't we? 5 assemblies. We could reference one from our own that we could build. So we could build maybe an alignments assembly, a profiles assembly, and has all the functions and tools we use to interact with alignments. And then when we want to call that, we just say, well, I want to reference that project in, and now it's going to have this kind of directory structure, so to speak, that we can call from. So it's good to kind of organize it, company, whatever we're working on, and so on and so forth. That's what namespaces are. When we added these references, you remember the things that were grayed out in that wizard? This is what it added for us. Those 5 DLLs, it added just perfectly in there for us and set the copy local to false for us. So it did a lot of work for us, but sometimes we have to do this manually. When we're referencing anything from Autodesk, such as the ACDB MGD, this is something that AutoCAD's already going to load. It's already going to be kind of running behind the scenes, and it's going to be built inside of AutoCAD. And we're just going to call it when we load ours inside of AutoCAD. So we don't want to copy another DLL or try to have our software call the wrong assembly. So we need to set that copy local to false. And again, the wizard does that for us, so it speeds up our process. All right, so that's kind of what it did for us. Very simple to do with the templates that Autodesk has. I didn't really do anything. I just walked you through and explained what it did. So we created our project. Let's go ahead and now create, and we did, when we created our project, we walked through a little bit about the namespaces, and we'll look at that in a little bit more detail as we get farther in. And we did take a look at our references as we went along as well. So now let's go ahead and build our .NET AutoCAD command. How many have played with .NET so far? How many have built an AutoCAD command? About half the class. Okay. So this is somewhat easy to build. So let's see how easy it is. I already have my project here. I deleted all those classes, so I'm going to right-click on my project name in Solution Explorer and say I want to add a new class. A class, we're going to call this class commands. When we're coming from functional software programming like Lisp or VBA, a lot of times we think of the file. It created a file, commands.vb, for us. We think of those extra files that it builds inside our VBA project just as a store or container of our functions and so forth. In .NET, everything that we build, anytime we build a class, we're building an object. You guys heard the phrase, this is object-oriented programming, right? And sometimes we skip over that because we've done VBA in the past and we just need to code something really quick. But if we've done Civil 3D, we know what object orientation is, right? An alignment, you move that, you're changing the profile because it's dynamically linked. The profile, of course, is dynamically linked to the surface. When you click on a label, you're not just clicking on text. It's not just an M-text string, but there's a huge object behind it. And so when we create a class, we're creating a new object. Now, we're going to use this class as a container. We're just going to store our commands in it. But we're going to see as we get farther in another option to create our own special object. Now, it's not an alignment object, but we're going to create our own little Civil 3D object in the software and use that to provide information. So just remember that with regard to classes, we're dealing with objects. And just like when you create an object, let's say you create a block in AutoCAD, you have to create the definition. That definition is stored, and you know it exists, but until you create a new instance of it, you don't see it in the drawing. You can't work with it. You can't manipulate it because you need one instance per reference. So if you're going to create a new drop inlet, you have to say insert drop inlet. So when we create a new class, we're defining the class here, but then if we want to call it, we have to create a new instance of that class, just like we're inserting a new block. Okay, so we're going to see that again as we go farther in. Let's go ahead and do our command, and it's simply an attribute, so I have that little bracket there, and we're going to say Autodesk.AutoCAD runtime command method. I expect you guys to memorize this. Change alignment styles. By the way, what we're going to build in this little exercise is a little application where we can select the alignments in the drawing and choose another style for them and click OK, and all the alignments that we've checked will have the styles changed. Something simple, but could be useful for us. And change alignment styles. Okay, so what we have is an attribute called command method with the command name. That's what we'll actually type at the command line. Change alignment styles. You can type in whatever you want. Especially now with IntelliSense, with 12 and 13, I encourage to include some type of abbreviation of your company name in there. You don't want to have other commands potentially be overwritten by your command. You want your name to be unique. And if you see the Civil 3D names, you see that's kind of the practice they use. Extremely long. This attribute is associated with this method called public sub, and then I just named the method change align styles. So what we're saying is when this command is called at the command line, it's going to run this routine. That's number 2, tripping on this thing. It's going to run this routine. That's a lot of typing, though, isn't it? Autodesk.AutoCAD. You guys ever create shortcut links on your desktop? So you're working on a project, and that's your project, and that's something you're in almost every day, multiple times throughout the day. You create a little shortcut and say 321 project on your desktop. Now, when you click on that link, it may open up Windows Explorer, and it may be Z, projects, wherever, and take you way down into a long string to get to that directory. But it's a shortcut. And you named it just, very short. This is my projects. We can do something similar in .NET using imports. So I'm going to import Autodesk.AutoCAD runtime. And now I don't have to type the entire length of that crazy name because I've imported the namespace. You see how the namespaces are coming in? This is a namespace that Autodesk has